Meanwhile, on the other side, the killer instructor received a mission assigned from above. Although he was unclear why the task was given to them, he hoped everyone would perform well. The next day, they took a boat to a small island. Upon arrival, Dako Hyung and Dako Jae were dumbfounded because their mission turned out to be volunteering. Both immediately threw tantrums on the ground, having expected an assassination or espionage task, not something as juvenile as this, which was hard for them to accept. Suddenly, a gentle and beautiful girl approached upon hearing the noise. She was a teacher at the school on the island, named Yejin. The two brothers glanced over, and the next second, both immediately changed into their work clothes and began working exceptionally hard. Lee Yuna was full of doubts, not understanding why the teacher had sent them to such a remote place. It was 500 kilometers from Seoul, and the killer instructor had repeatedly instructed them not to cause trouble or reveal their real identities. Pietro was reticent but seemed preoccupied with his thoughts. Just then, two thugs approached, claiming the school owed protection money. The security uncle at the school quickly tried to smooth things over. You know, this school hardly makes any profit. It's so poor it can barely pay the electricity bills. Brother, please accept this for now. After saying that, he handed over a basket full of potatoes. The thugs disdainfully knocked the security uncle to the ground, and teacher Yejin glared at them angrily. Can't you see that we don't have any money? We're barely surviving on donations. One of the thugs moved closer, sneering, Teacher, there's another way. With your looks, making money would be a piece of cake. Suddenly, Dako Hyung sternly stepped in front of teacher Yejin. However, in the end, he and Dako Jae, the two brothers, were beaten up badly. Even the security uncle was covered in bruises, all battered and bruised. But Pietro felt reassured by this. Compared to their first meeting and the fight with Park Sang-do, the two brothers had indeed grown a lot. Pietro understood that a truly strong person needs not only strength but also a patient heart and the demeanor to not show off. He was very satisfied with the brothers' performance today. Under the brilliant starry sky, with stars twinkling, everything seemed exceptionally peaceful. Facing the beautiful scenery, Lee Yuna felt anxious. She thought about the medicine Kim Sung-gu had given her brother and felt undeserving of such a great favor, yet she had never formally thanked him. As she was lost in thought, Pietro was already standing behind her, startling her. It was just the two of them, a good opportunity to thank him. Unexpectedly, it was Pietro who spoke first, thanking her. He explained that at the time in Honor Hospital, he was supposed to be coerced to go under the hospital's clock tower, but Lee Yuna intentionally directed him to the clock tower outside in the park. Even though she knew lying could cost her life, she still resolutely hid the fact that Kim Sung-gu had killed Octopus. Despite being terrified and crying that day, she had summoned the courage from deep within to protect Kim Sung-gu. Lee Yuna was also confused and asked, "Why weren't you scared at all in the hospital? I've seen many killers, but I've never met anyone as strong as you. You even defeated Nathaniel, and with your abilities, being just a D-rank killer doesn't make sense." Pietro didn't explain much, only saying simply, "When the time is right, I will tell you everything." Lee Yuna finally gathered her courage and loudly said, "Thank you." Pietro smiled appreciatively and remarked, "Both brothers, and you have matured a lot. If that's the case, it's time to meet that person." Pietro went alone to the academic building, where the security room was still lit. The uncle was inside, as always, telling his corny jokes and asking after everyone's well-being. Pietro looked at the security uncle, still living optimistically, and was about to leave. But then, the uncle stopped him. "I've smelled blood for decades. You think a clumsy acting can cover it up?" The security uncle took off his cap, revealing silver hair. "I managed to come here silently, all thanks to the volunteer activities, and I have only one purpose for coming here, to meet you, the world's strongest swordsman, Disciple Simon." The uncle slowly pulled a sword from the broom, chuckled coldly. "You must have gathered quite some information before coming here, right? Did you know that your life is about to end?" Just now, when the two confronted each other head-on, Simon could find no fault in Pietro's technique. No one had ever escaped from his sword. Even when he used cut bamboo to create an enclosed area, he stood no chance. He clearly felt that the young man before him possessed unfathomable strength. Simon had tried hard to hide his own ways, adjusted his speaking skills, and even changed his body scent and breathing rate. But no matter how incredible or absurd, the person before him was indeed his senior brother Pietro. At this moment, the 50-year-old man with a weathered face knelt before a 20-year-old young man. It turns out that in his youth, he had received meticulous swordsmanship training from Pietro, and the young man who seemed to have reversed his age was indeed Pietro. When Simon learned the whole story, he was even more puzzled. Although he was pleased to know that his senior brother Pietro had not died, he still didn't understand why Pietro had come to this remote village. "Have you heard about the Nathaniel incident at Honor Hospital?" Simon was certainly concerned about that chaotic event. Could it be, he speculated, but killing Nathaniel doesn't solve the fundamental issue, because what I want to eliminate is glory. Pietro continued to explain, tracing back to 60 years ago, Father Gabriel had started an orphanage, selecting 12 exceptional children, including Pietro. From that point, they underwent rigorous training, fighting every day for survival, enduring countless hellish trials just to become stronger. These 12 disciples eventually became the country's secret agents, growing into a force that could shake the world in just a few years. But one day, the priest brought back a little boy, and for some reason, decided to adopt him. As time passed, this little boy began to covet the crown on the throne. He successfully killed the priest and placed the crown on his own head. When Simon learned of this, he was enraged and vowed to kill the usurper immediately, but he was stopped by an older Pietro. The time is not right yet. Simon, holding back his grief, did not act. Thus, glory fell into the hands of the little boy, quickly becoming corrupt and rotten, turning into a bloody organization of killers. If you know what glory is like now, then take me with you. But Pietro was unwilling to risk him. He did not want to see Simon's hard-built refuge disappear in an instant. He recalled the past, filled with regret. If you hadn't stopped me back then, I wouldn't even be alive today, and that brat wouldn't be strutting around, acting all high and mighty. Even if I was beheaded, I would have gladly stepped in. Pietro appeared slightly sorrowful, hating his own powerlessness in his older years. Now, with his youthful body, it seemed as if heaven had given him a chance for revenge. Simon, just watch quietly. The one who will destroy his empire will be me. The next day, they prepared to return home. Simon also followed his elder brother Pietro's decision, but he said, if there's anything you need help with, just one phone call, and I'll be there. Pietro felt reassured seeing him still strong and vigorous. However, after they left, the island suddenly experienced fierce winds and a downpour, with thunder and lightning over the school. At that moment, sitting in the security room, Simon was about to read the newspaper, but suddenly, he took off his hat. Two figures in black appeared in his sight, braving the rain. I wasn't informed of any visitors today. What can I do for you? Of course, we are here for you. One of the 12 disciples of Father Gabriel, the swirling sword saint, disciple Simon. The visitors were a highly skilled swordswoman and a man as large as a bear. It turns out they were sent by Glory, and the woman representing Japan's strongest swordsman is the new Simon. You actually know about me? It's really exciting, coming all this way. It seems this trip wasn't in vain. Don't worry, I treat all my guests very well, so let's have a fight to the death. Soon after, the security room lit up with flashes of light, each burst sparked by the clash of their swords. The force of their strikes sent shockwaves through the blades, throwing them both backward from the impact. I was really looking forward to this. Could it be because you've gotten old? You're not as great as I thought you'd be. I haven't picked up a sword in many years. If it were before, you would have been dead by now. Mister, don't flatter yourself. Simon thought to himself. Her swordsmanship is impressive, but what worries me more is the buff guy standing behind her. To take on both of them, I would need to move to a larger area. With that, their swords clashed once again. The woman swiftly swung her sword at Simon, aiming for his neck, but in the next second, Simon quickly fled through the window. Damn, he actually got away. Is it okay with the rain pouring down like this? It's fine. Let's chase him. That woman's swordsmanship is unusual, but most important is her sword. She's crafted the blade like a saw, with each tooth unusually wide, so it can deeply penetrate the skin. And that big guy did nothing when his partner was hurt. They definitely have some secrets they're not telling. It wasn't long before Simon stopped. The enemy chased him to the edge of a cliff and said mockingly, Mister, you seem quite romantic, choosing a cliff as your own grave. But Simon remained unfazed, quietly gathering his breath, feeling every drop of rain and even every wisp of air around him. Suddenly, he quickly dealt with one enemy and prepared to face the bear-like man. However, that man still showed no reaction. Looking down, Simon discovered a deep wound on his stomach. He couldn't understand when it had happened. It was clear he had struck the opponent. So why was this happening? Was he possessed by a ghost, or was it a hallucination? Simon began to suspect that what the woman had sprayed on herself might have been a hallucinogenic drug. Since it was a hallucinogenic drug, Simon decided to fight with his eyes closed. His swordsmanship skills, even with his eyes shut, would never fail him, as he had practiced them tens of thousands of times. But at that moment, to his enemies, Simon looked as if he was performing monkey swordplay, clumsy and inept. The enemy laughed. This mister, you're like a drunk. I should tell you something too. Do you know why they call me Sword Ghost? Because just like the name suggests, I'm a ghost, and the sword I use is a ghost's sword. Meanwhile, at Divine Honor High School, was love always this painful? Teacher Yejin isn't replying. Dako Hyung showed his messages to Liuna and Pietro. He mentioned that Teacher Yejin usually replies, but after she sent a photo of a note that read, a woman who uses the sword, a bear-like man, she hadn't responded to anything. These strange messages made Pietro feel extremely uneasy, so he took Jaiwin and her subordinate back to the island to investigate. At the top of the cliff, they found a box and a photo of a ship. Inside the box was Simon's right hand. When Pietro saw this, he reflected that if he had kept Simon by his side at that time, this tragedy wouldn't have happened. At that moment, Pietro was completely enraged. In the distance, someone used binoculars to watch them, confirming that the target had received the gift. Indeed, there's an old man, but he didn't come alone. There's a woman and a dog and a young man. But where did the young man go? Before he could finish, Pietro suddenly appeared behind him, swiftly snatching his phone, leaving the man stunned. Are you the new Simon of Glory? Oh my, am I talking to Pietro right now? Such a pleasure indeed. I really don't know what makes you so confident to mess with my people. But let me tell you something too. You say you are a ghost, right? Well then, just you wait. You will be tormented by a real ghost, in agony until death. The next day, a speedboat raced across the sea. Pietro had prepared early in the morning to set out. However, However, Jaiwan was unusually worried because the place they were heading to was an invisible ship. This ship had traversed 6 continents and 5 oceans, and the identities of all the people on board were unknown. Even the names or passport information of the crew members could not be traced. This ship was also known as the Ghost Cruise, but Pietro appeared calm and collected, as he already knew the origin of the ship. From the Kamakura shogunate to the modern era, there has always been an assassin group in Japan that has guarded for 1,000 years, known as the Wandering Ghost Blade. And then there was a group that was once the strongest underworld gang in Kanto, but then a bizarre disappearance occurred. That day, they were celebrating the leader's 60th birthday, and at the banquet, 2,000 people died all at once, and there were only 2 perpetrators. Jaiwan couldn't understand it, though it was a world-famous case. Why was it classified as a missing persons case? 2 people against 2,000 should more appropriately be called a massacre. The reason is, despite the massive scale of the battle that unfolded at the scene, not a single body was found at the site of the incident. Although the Japanese police immediately issued a warrant for them, they disappeared mysteriously, just as their name implies. However, years later, these 2 appeared in South Korea, re-emerging as the new Simon of the Glory Club. Jaiwan was even more worried. They are the ones who cut off Simon's hand. Isolated at sea, without support, aren't you really worried? Pietro was no longer concerned about how dangerous it was there. He just wanted to know how many people were responsible for spilling his brother's blood. Those people, they all must pay the price. Despite saying so, Pietro was not completely without support. Dako Hyung and Dako Jae came along as cleaning crew, and also Choi Eun-chang, the president of Deha Group. You should know, that kind of place isn't just somewhere you can enter casually. Even the president of Deha Group was embarrassed by it. It was mixed with smuggling of drugs, weapons, and various astronomical priced artworks. It even included human trafficking. Even Choi Eun-chang needed to skin his face to get on board. Soon after, they saw their destination not far ahead, the unofficial holy site of Glory Club, Disciple Simon's Ghost Cruise. Pietro was determined to find out just how evil that woman was. At that time, in the cruise's guest room, a dignitary smashed a waiter's head with an ashtray. Call your boss out now. Alas, Mr. An, what's made you so angry? Is the service here not to your liking? How about we talk in my room? Do I look that frivolous? I'm the CEO of Dusang Group. Don't be angry. If you don't like my room, we can talk here as well. What do you say, Mr. An? If you're not entertained enough, I can make it even more intoxicating for you. Oh my, look at him. I didn't think you'd be into this stuff. That's enough. Throw him into the sea. Do you really think Pietro will come? This will be the first auction after that phone call. He definitely will come. After all, he received the gift I sent him. I will find him and then slowly torture and kill him to claim the 7.6 billion bounty. I can't wait to meet you, Pietro. Meanwhile, after boarding, Dako Hyung and Dako Jae were completely shocked by the opulence of the club. A pool that could accommodate thousands, incredibly luxurious hotel-style services beyond their wildest imaginations, with dignitaries everywhere. After serving any guest, they received generous tips. A casual tip was $1,000, making them overjoyed, even fantasizing about working here for a year and a half and then retiring. Suddenly, the auction room erupted with enthusiastic cheers. Before we start the bidding, please allow me to introduce this item. This little thing can kill hundreds of thousands of people in 2 minutes. A biological weapon Photorok. It was developed by the former Soviet Union, decided to be destroyed due to its extreme danger, but for some reason, it was saved by us, and then came into our hands. At that moment, an old man trembled with anger. He was the top arms dealer in Russia, VVIP Victor Igora. I was wondering where it had ended up. You too, bring that woman here immediately. It's best not to go up there. But the confidence of the fighting nation made them disregard the warning, and they pushed past the man and walked straight towards the woman. The 2 men approached the woman, declaring, just behave, and you won't get hurt. However, suddenly, the 2 towering men let out screams of pain as their faces inexplicably began to melt. The audience below was shocked, and the scene descended into chaos. Only Pietro noticed something amiss, because he saw that the tall man had subtly done something when he stopped them. The man's hands had touched their faces, and though it was not yet clear what caused the melting, it was definitely linked to that man. The auction was disrupted by the commotion. Sorry for dampening everyone's spirits. The bidding for the biological weapon Photorok will start tomorrow evening, with a starting bid of $200 million. And one more thing, I wasn't planning to reveal this today, but because of this little incident, I'll give everyone a sneak peek. I've just got my hands on a very special auction item, something beyond everyone's imagination, even more valuable than today's Photorok. I look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow. Please be sure to arrive on time. Simon, where the hell are you? After leaving the auction, Choi Eun-chang and Pietro planned to grab something to eat. However, Choi Eun-chang began to mutter because he felt that the woman was extremely dangerous. No matter how prominent people were outside, on this ship, they had to listen to her. She was one of the most extreme psychopaths he had ever seen. As they were walking, a familiar voice stopped them. It was the new Simon, the sword ghost of glory. She enthusiastically invited President Choi to dinner. Faced with this woman, even the worldly Choi Eun-chang could only politely decline, not daring to outright refuse her request. However, this woman was not one to give up easily, and not getting a satisfactory satisfactory response. She clearly wouldn't let it go easily. Just then, she was pushed aside by a hand belonging to Pietro, disguised as Choi Yun-chang's bodyguard. The president is unwell and can only do so next time. If you really want someone to dine with, I'd be happy to oblige. Pietro then hurriedly escorted President Choi back to his room. Faced with such disregard, the woman was furious. Then, she pulled out her perfume and sprayed it on herself. I indeed need a dinner companion, and dinner time can be quite lengthy. Better loosen your tie and accompany me well. How could you refuse me? Any man who sees me becomes completely captivated and unable to deny my requests. Just then, Dako Hyung and Dako Jae, the two brothers, came to the rescue. Pietro's befuddled mind also began to clear at that moment. Seeing this, both the woman and his subordinate had to temporarily back off and leave the scene. However, because the brothers were too close, they inhaled too much perfume, causing them to become disoriented and madly clean the walls. This made Pietro realize that perhaps Simon had been mentally eroded by such tactics. Otherwise, with his skills, he would never have lost his hand. Aren't you curious? What are you referring to? 100 Brazilian killers and Nathaniel, who used 100% of his strength, all died by his hand. A nearly 70-year-old man. How could he possess such strength? Is there a possibility that the man wasn't Pietro at all? This place is different from the hospital, considering the radar outside the ship and the possibility of disguise. That old man is not on this ship. So, someone's pretending to be Pietro? Then I should ask. I need to find out who he is and why he's prying into the organization's business. But how do you plan to get in contact with this person? Did you forget? We still have that thing. Has that man troubled you, or are you afraid that I might fall in love with someone else? Of course not. At that moment, Pietro changed into a waiter's outfit, planning to gather information about Simon on the cruise. He recalled his conversation with Simon. Although we are not related by blood, you are the only family I have. If one of us had to die, it should have been me. So, please, do not get hurt. For Pietro, Simon was also his family, his only brother. Therefore, he would go to any lengths, even if it meant killing thousands, just to bring him back. The auction proceeded as scheduled, with all eyes focused on the event, and Pietro knew that now was the best opportunity to track down Simon. He nearly searched the entire ship, from the kitchen to the engine room, checked every bathroom, and even looked for hidden compartments, but still found no trace of him. Therefore, the only possible place left was the auction hall. At that moment, the auction hall was bustling, with astronomical bids being called out one after another. When a gavel hit, the auction welcomed its final item. A huge safe was wheeled onto the stage, causing the audience to gasp. What treasure could be so important to warrant such an entrance? This item is more precious than any jewel or painting, incomparable to those things. Even more so, it's more eye-catching than Photorock. As she spoke, she began to turn the safe's dial. The moment the safe opened, everyone was shocked. Inside the safe lay the former disciple of the Glory Club, Simon. Don't look at him now, weak and weary. He was once known as the strongest swordsman. The woman's gaze carried a challenge, as if she knew Pietro was watching. How about it, Pietro? Are you watching? Does it get your blood pumping? This should be enough to drive you mad. So, come out already. Where are you? Come out. Just then, Pietro could not suppress the rage inside him, releasing a fierce killing intent instantly. However, he quickly contained it. Although that moment of killing intent gave his position away, the sword ghost lost his track. Despite this, the sword ghost did not give up. She continued to drive the auction atmosphere to its peak. The auction for Simon will begin. The starting bid is $10 million. Pietro was very aware that this was a trick to draw him out. Not only that, it wasn't just about whether he had the $10 million to bid. Raising his hand to bid would surely reveal his identity as Pietro. If he chose not to bid, Simon would be executed on the spot. In the past, a disciple of glory was worth more than a nuclear bomb. Yet now, the auction hall fell into an eerie silence. The impatient sword ghost grabbed Simon's hair and taunted, "You really are trash that nobody wants now." Then, she announced to the audience below, if because he has lost a hand, no one wants to buy him, then after 5 counts, I'll kill him. At this moment, Pietro was extremely anxious inside, frantically thinking about how to save Simon. He forcefully suppressed his anger, his hands clenched until they turned red. Just as the countdown was about to end, suddenly, a voice broke the silence. $20 million. The chairman of Deha Group, Choi Eun-chang, signaled that he would buy the former disciple of glory, Simon, for $20 million in cash. This action shocked Pietro and even stunned the sword ghost. Why would Choi Eun-chang do this? After all, he was a business partner of their boss and also one of the major shareholders of the Glory Club. At this moment, the sword ghost was caught in a dilemma. If she went back on her word, it would deal a heavy blow to her own credibility. Thus, Choi Eun-chang got his wish and successfully bid for Simon. Soon after, Simon was taken to a guest room for basic medical treatment. Choi Eun-chang realized that this was the person that Pietro wanted to save. Pietro was grateful for this, but also started to worry that Choi Eun-chang might get drawn into this crisis. Although Choi Eun-chang outwardly claimed he was fine, he was deeply tied to glory and felt anxious about how to safely leave the ship. However, Pietro appeared calm and collected, reassuring Choi Eun-chang not to worry because he still had a card to play. Soon after, Pietro waited in the lobby. Before long, Dako Hyung and Dako Jae, the two brothers, appeared, dressed in designer clothes, shining brightly brightly. It seemed they had made a good amount of money these past few days, and even began to mock Pietro's poor appearance. "Follow us, bro, we'll let you enjoy the good life." However, Pietro stopped them with a single statement that stunned them. "Didn't you come here to become legendary killers like Pietro?" This statement instantly snapped the brothers out of their fantasy, igniting a fire within them as they excitedly said, "Tell us, bro, what do we need to do next? Something very terrifying will happen on this ship soon, and your task is to act as A-rank killers." The brothers did not hesitate and immediately went to prepare. Pietro then returned to his room, looking at Simon lying weakly on the bed, feeling a mix of emotions. Seeing him like this, Pietro couldn't help but recall the old days. Over 60 years ago, when they were still young, they had watched school students play soccer during their free time. Simon had then expressed, "I wish I could be as simply happy as them, carrying a backpack instead of swords, wearing fresh school uniforms instead of smelling of sweat. How could I possibly go to school? It's not like I can use hands covered in blood to pick up a pen for learning." Pietro, who was very fond of Simon at the time, made a bold suggestion. "I plan to build a school that only accepts children who are poor, parentless, and homeless. You could naturally go to that school to study, and I will cover all the expenses of the school." Hearing this, Simon showed a smile that had been long missing. But now, Simon still lay in bed with no signs of improvement. Pietro leaned in close and whispered to him, "Get well soon. We still have to go to school. You promised me." This scene was quietly observed by Choi Eun-chang from outside the door. Meanwhile, the sword ghost returned to her room, furious. She couldn't understand the connection between Choi Eun-chang and Simon that made Choi disrupt her plans. "Let's kill him. Cut off Choi Eun-chang's head and hang it in the most visible place on the ship, so they know the fate of those who oppose me. Dea Group's revenue is significant, and without the boss's permission, we can't kill him. He is a key cog in the kingdom of glory. Your master should be me, shouldn't it? Don't be mistaken. You don't call the shots alone here. On this ship, I am God. I represent everything. Send someone immediately to kill Simon and Choi Eun-chang. That way, the old man Pietro will have to show himself." Soon after, urgent knocking came from Choi Eun-chang's room. Choi was puzzled. He hadn't scheduled any visitors. Pietro calmly explained, "Actually, I ordered room service for you." After speaking, he asked Choi to wait a moment, then stepped out of the room and opened another room across the hall. This room was filled with dirtiness. There was a lot of trash to clean up. "You guys failed to be the best crewmen." "What are you joking about? Young man, there are 20 of us carrying guns here. You think you can take us on with that pepper shakers? You're just a mere bodyguard. Be sensible and run for your life." Pietro smirked, clearly aware that these people did not understand how dangerous pepper could be. Over-reliance on guns, even if you're skilled, you will eventually have its limits. Sometimes, these little items are more useful than bullets. The leader was stunned as Pietro fearlessly charged into the crowd. Using a pepper shaker, he precisely targeted everyone's temples, instantly killing them on the spot. Pietro was fearless because they had surrounded the enemy themselves. If they fired rashly, their comrades would be hit first. If they hesitated, with Pietro's speed, they could not accurately shoot him. It seems these child soldiers completely underestimate how deadly pepper can be. As the smoke cleared, only Pietro's figure remained in the room. An interesting scene was about to unfold. Meanwhile, when the sword ghost learned that the hitmen she had sent were all defeated, she was utterly shocked. How could such a capable person be with Choi Eun-chang? These were mercenaries she had handpicked. Could it be that the old man Pietro had always been secretly protecting him? However, the head of security began to panic. He learned from the intercom that, whether it was the restaurant, the swimming pool, the surveillance room, the casino, or the cockpit, reports were coming in from all over saying they had seen Pietro's figure. The sword ghost was confused. How could he appear in multiple places at the same time? He couldn't possibly have the ability to clone himself. What exactly was the old man planning? The cruise ship was now in chaos. Tourists were running scared, and bodies lay everywhere. It turned out, this was all the work of Dako Hyung and Dako Jae. Previously, Pietro had told them a secret. That woman had inexplicably killed 2 bodyguards of a Russian arms dealer, and that person had not been seen since. Thus, Pietro deduced that the woman's real plan was to kill all the VIPs on the ship. After hearing this hypothesis, the 2 brothers suddenly realized, next, you two must take on the task of A-rank killers. As their identity could be disguised as cleaners, they could easily move through different areas of the ship, spreading this alarming news. The brothers acted swiftly, spreading the shocking news to everyone's ears. The informed guests all became skittish. However, this alone was not enough to trigger complete chaos. A catalyst was still needed. Just as Pietro fired a shot at the ceiling, the brothers immediately shouted in the most crowded area, "Save us! An Asian grandpa is fighting against the crewmen." In an instant, all the tourists on the cruise ship plunged into panic, fleeing in terror. At this time, the sword ghost in the lounge was hearing various chaotic rumors. Some said the crew would kill all VIP guests. Others claimed that the notorious killer Pietro had already boarded the ship. The sword ghost was furious, repeatedly striking the head of security with an ashtray. "Pietro, you old fool, can't you just die quietly? Already 1 foot in the grave, yet you still cause trouble, daring to cause such a mess on my ship. I'm going to kill you." "Master, don't be angry. I'll bring him back to you." "When did you get so enthusiastic?" "But there's no need for that. He always hides in the shadows, but I think I know how to lure him out. You just need to obey me. I've thought of a good way. With this, he won't be able to hide in the shadows anymore. A weapon that can kill 200,000 people. The deadliest thing in the world. What a treasure. Soon after, poison gas began to spread throughout the ship's cabins. Pietro was also shocked to see this. That madwoman had actually used photorock. Just a tiny inhalation of this biochemical weapon could be lethal within minutes. If things continued this way, everyone on the ship, including the two brothers, Chairman Choi Eun-chang, and even Simon, would die. However, Pietro remained calm. He had survived many similar crises before. Yet, the greatest threat now was not photorock, but the panicked crowd. Driven to desperation by the poison gas, they could not make sound judgments. To save these people, he needed to direct them all to head to the deck for safety. But the problem was, Pietro had already searched every corner of the ship while looking for Simon, and there were no alarms or public address systems on board. Most importantly, if he chose to save the crowd, Simon would be in danger, and Pietro couldn't possibly save everyone individually. The tide of fleeing people was beyond his reach. As Pietro faced this dilemma, he saw a ray of hope. Choi Eun-chang, carrying Simon, was moving steadfastly toward the deck. Do you know how Deha became the best in the world? Whether it's technology or people, once we get them, we never let go easily. That's one of the most important principles in business. So, just leave him to me. Do what you need to do. Pietro realized that the little boy he once saved had grown into a man capable of supporting a piece of the sky. Pietro briefly thanked him, then turned and ran towards where the poison gas was spreading. This action left Choi Eun-chang in stunned admiration. Pietro rushed into the poisonous fog without a moment's hesitation. Choi understood that he should have stopped this young man, yet he secretly hoped he could achieve the impossible, just as he had once hoped for someone else. That familiar feeling surged once again. Meanwhile, the sword ghost had already prepared expensive wine, quietly waiting for the poison to disperse, after which she could go and search for Pietro's body. By then, she could claim the 7.6 billion reward in front of their boss. However, suddenly, the entire ship inexplicably began to tilt, which left Sword Ghost very puzzled. She believed such a problem was impossible with the ship she had constructed. 5 minutes earlier, Pietro had successfully infiltrated the control room and skillfully hacked into the ship's control system. Every large ship has 3 ballast tanks filled with water to balance the ship. If the water from one of these tanks were drained, the ship would lose balance and tilt in one direction. On a ship without any broadcasting devices, and with the masses in a state of panic, Pietro knew that the most effective way to guide them to make rational decisions was to use their primal instinct to escape. A tilting cruise ship would naturally drive them to flee upwards, and the upper areas, particularly the deck, were the only places far enough from the poison gas. Only by running upwards can they survive. As people ran upwards, the heavier-than-air poison gas would stay on the lower levels of the ship and stop spreading. Before the ship could be stabilized, he had to defeat Sword Ghost and save everyone. Witnessing the chaos unfolding, Sword Ghost was burning with rage. At that moment, someone came to report Pietro is now in the auction hall. She chuckled darkly as she slowly removed her clothes, muttering to herself, since he so desires death, of course, I must oblige him. She approached the storage locker and began to carefully select a fragrance for Pietro, not sure what he likes. Should I choose the scent old Simon preferred, or try a new one? Never mind, I'll take them all. After all, he is Pietro, he should like them. Soon after, she and her subordinate arrived at the auction hall. By then, Pietro was already waiting for them. Seeing Pietro's figure, Sword Ghost was puzzled. Why is it this kid? Where has the old man gone? Pietro watched them coldly, containing his killing intent. Seeing that he did not respond, Sword Ghost prepared to draw her sword to kill him. However, Pietro picked up the microphone and slowly announced, the final auction of the Ghost Cruise is about to begin. Today's lot is a new disciple personally selected by the new owner of the Glory Club, Sword Ghost. Sword Ghost furrowed her brows, utterly confused. What is this fool talking about? Her anger became uncontrollable, given she was the roaming head of the Wandering Ghost Blade in Japan, the strongest swordsman of the Yamato nation. Starting bid, 100 Korean won. Feeling humiliated, Sword Ghost instantly drew her sword and roared, "You're courting death." Fortunately, she was stopped by the bear-like man. 100 Korean won, no bidders, then 51. If not, 31 will do. It really can't get any cheaper. Anyone for 10 won? What a pity. No one wants you. Don't be sad, Sword Ghost. I will ensure your life is valued appropriately. What do you think? 01. But I have a question. That night, did you really think you had defeated the Swirling Sword Saint? It seems you have overestimated your abilities. Today, I will let you see what the pinnacle of the Swirling Sword from that era really looked like. The bear-like man was stunned upon hearing this. This kid is barely in his 20s. How could he possibly emulate Swirling Sword technique? Yet, Pietro's gaze was filled with confidence and calm. This unwavering aura of intent to kill made the bear-like man uneasy. He immediately advised Sword Ghost to hold back, claiming he would confront Pietro first. But after Pietro's humiliation, Sword Ghost's fury was already ignited, and she unleashed her rarely seen ghost eye, ordering the bear-like man not to interfere. At that moment, her expression and gaze were reminiscent of the time she slaughtered 2,000 people, seemingly reverting to that bloodthirsty state. She slowly took off her shoes, sneering at Pietro. "You can tell me how you wish wish to die, and I can generously fulfill it." At that moment, Pietro quietly observed, remaining silent. He knew this was a critical moment. Her action of taking off her shoes seemed suspicious. Was it merely to lighten her weight to increase her speed? It seemed unlikely that speed alone could secure a position as a disciple. The Wandering Ghost Blade clan, with the title of Sword Ghost being the highest honor, reserved only for the strongest who could carry on the legacy of the previous generation. This woman's removal of her shoes wasn't just to reduce weight, it was because she possessed astonishing speed. The secret was in her soles, the ghost shoes. The ghost shoes provided additional kinetic energy for her movements, solving the inevitable vacuum period in high-speed motion. They allowed her to swiftly move to one location and quickly shift to another, granting her high mobility. Thus, the kinetic energy converted into powerful force, enhancing the user's destructive power several-fold. Seeing this vigor, the bear-like man had to admit his concerns. The speed of the sword ghost was extremely fast, and she would vanish into thin air after each maneuver. Against such an opponent, even Pietro would struggle to find an opportunity to counterattack. In other words, as long as Pietro couldn't catch her flaw, the sword ghost remained invincible. Despite this, the bear-like man was still filled with doubt. Clearly, Pietro was on the defensive, but his eyes revealed no hint of defeat. Instead, they were incredibly calm. Plus, he was meticulously observing every move of the sword ghost. Feeling uneasy, the bear-like man tried to stop the sword ghost. "This kid is a bit strange." However, the sword ghost ignored him, angrily kicking the bear-like man away and scolding, "From now on, don't interfere. Just stay there and watch, and keep your mouth shut." But Pietro didn't see it that way. "Your earlier action left you gasping for breath. Why didn't you let him help? Sure, you're fast, but compared to Simon, it's nothing special." It seems the sword ghost is nothing to shout about after all. Faced with such humiliation and provocation, she clenched her teeth in rage. She erupted with relentless killing intent, charging straight at Pietro. In response, Pietro met her assault with the swirling sword technique. Then, the two fighters froze in place, standing back to back in the final stances of their attacks, as if time itself had momentarily stopped. The sword ghost's pupils dilated, disbelievingly staring at this audacious young man, while Pietro remained composed. "Aren't you curious how I managed to block all your attack routes? You kicked so powerfully against the floor and columns, gaining unmatched speed, but it also means there's a fatal flaw. From the direction of the sound, one can determine where you will kick. This essentially tells me your attack direction. In other words, by simply positioning my sword in the line of your trajectory, I can easily fend off your attacks. And this is a gift returned on behalf of the swirling sword saint." At that moment, the sword ghost was struggling in the bear-like man's arms, continuously mumbling, "Now, immediately, right away, detonate that thing. I must personally dismember this insolent brat." Suddenly, with a loud bang, the ceiling blew open. This sensation was all too familiar to Pietro. It was the same perfume scent from their first encounter. As the lingering smoke slowly settled, the sword ghost revealed a sinister smile. "You're done for. Even if Pietro were here, he would have no means to deal with this. This realm is mine alone." Facing the enveloping perfume, that hallucinogenic kind, Pietro chose not to flee. The enemy laughed heartily. "He really is an idiot. Anyone who smells this perfume becomes like a drunk, a lamb on the chopping block. And yet this kid doesn't run away. He just stands there, dazed." Just as the sword ghost prepared to deliver a fatal blow and end his life, she found Pietro involuntarily writhing in the smoke. He took off his vest and wrapped it around his blade. The bear-like man didn't understand either. Shouldn't he be hallucinating by now? The sword ghost seemed to notice something. Could it be that he's been holding his breath all this time? But even so, you can't hold your breath forever. Then, Pietro doused his blade with a bottle of strong liquor. "The perfume you've relied on. Let me show you how utterly powerless it really is." Pietro then swung the flaming blade through the air, igniting the drug-laden smoke. Sword ghost was stunned, and the bear-like man only then realized what was happening. The perfume, a soft material containing 60% alcohol, was highly flammable. The first time Sword Ghost encountered this young man, he had already discovered the secret. Yet Sword Ghost did not give up. Despite this, the hall was still filled with a large amount of perfumed smoke. Pietro stabbed the flaming blade into the floor, and flames instantly roared to life. Sword Ghost was taken aback. How could this be? Pietro hadn't thrown the liquor bottle earlier to stop Sword Ghost's actions, but to fill the room's floor with alcohol. He had been setting up the battlefield from the start to turn the situation to his advantage. At this moment, Sword Ghost, overwhelmed by rage, lunged forward with her sword. But now, bleeding profusely and with reduced strength and speed, she could no longer pose any threat. Her limits had been reached. But suddenly, what Pietro saw next shocked him. The bear-like man halted Sword Ghost's action with a hand chop. Losing a hand would cause severe bleeding, and her high blood pressure would make continued fighting dangerously risky. Calming her down was the correct decision at the moment. Pietro thought the bear-like man would be his next opponent, but instead, he turned and fled the scene with Sword Ghost, heading towards the flame-engulfed ship corridor. As they left, the bear-like man was regretful, feeling he should not have let her fight alone. While Pietro, who had planned to end the fight and leave, was left with an unresolved mystery: the Wandering Ghost Blade organization. During his check with Jaiwan on their identities, Pietro uncovered something very odd. god. She had killed at most 2,000 people, but how could she qualify as the new Simon? Each disciple in glory was more powerful than her, more valuable than a nuclear weapon. She was utterly unqualified to be a disciple. Yet, after reviewing extensive data, he found that her capabilities were vastly inferior to Simon's. Nonetheless, Glory's new boss had recruited her. What could be the reason behind this? Pietro's suspicion was confirmed when he came alone to the ship's deck, and a figure slowly emerged behind him. It turned out he was the true disciple Simon, codenamed Simon Kagio. Rank: Disciple. Pietro was puzzled. With your strength, why would you choose to be someone else's shadow? You don't need to be so curious. In this industry, those who are curious don't last long. Pietro forced himself to remain calm. This person is like a shadow, never appearing in any records. Even during the previous battle with Nathaniel, Pietro had only caught a glimpse of some abilities. Now, facing a completely unknown person, the biggest issue is that he has no idea about his fighting style, which puts immense pressure on Pietro. From the brief exchange just now, Pietro grew more doubtful because he couldn't understand this man at all. His posture was very low, not resembling karate at all. Despite experiencing tens of thousands of battles, he had never seen a human use this fighting style. Was he still hiding something, or was it some secret technique even he didn't know? Although his movements were full of openings, neck, chest, abdomen, completely unprotected, his fighting style seemed unusually unnatural. This confused Pietro. His actions seemed utterly devoid of any combat skills, yet he seemed extremely proficient. This weird feeling was more like an animal's instinct, dodging Pietro's attacks in an extraordinarily unusual posture. He possessed a rare insight. Whenever he saw an attack coming, he would instantly decide whether to block or dodge. From these signs, Pietro realized that this man was a relentless fighting machine, born like a wild beast filled with savagery. After a brief exchange, Kagio felt Pietro's strength, but that was it. He thought there was no need to use that thing. Sloppy. Compared to your natural talent, your attack and defense patterns are too simple and mindless. You must not have studied combat skills much, right? To be precise, you couldn't learn them. It's really hard to understand. You clearly have that ability. Why do you always hide behind the sword ghost? What is holding back your nature? Or is it that you can't do anything without your master? Kagio was also shocked. Why did this man know the secrets behind him? But no matter what, he had to protect the sword ghost. So, he burst forth, charging at Pietro. This action made Pietro increasingly fascinated. All movements were full of recklessness, but also filled with creativity. Maybe he didn't need to learn any combat skills, because it seemed like he never felt threatened by anyone, like a born predator, instinctively biting the opponent's neck and then tearing off the prey's head. But there was still one thing that was unexplainable. He still seemed to be hiding a secret. Facing this young man, Kagio was also somewhat nervous because he had been aiming at one place all along, his legs, always thinking of setting traps to limit his movement. Kagio's agility must have been frustrating for him, hence the elaborate trap. Since he's so purposeful, then I'll do exactly the opposite. I'll attack him, Kagio thought. However, when he found his movements constrained, he was very puzzled. When had the chain been fastened? Was it during the recent fight that he had already laid the groundwork for everything that followed? It seems you've always been fighting on instinct, but you must have realized something after witnessing my fight with the sword ghost. So, my bait has to be more refined. You've probably never fought a battle that required brains, have you? Don't waste your effort. Even a saw would hardly cut through this chain. However, hidden in Kagio's sleeve was a set of clawed gloves, not only corrosion resistant, but also capable of cutting through his own skin, meaning he used his own blood to melt the iron chain around his neck. This was why he could become a disciple, the power to dissolve people he had displayed at the auction. Seeing this, Pietro became extremely cautious. Having such abilities meant he couldn't approach Kagio carelessly. When Kagio charged at him, Pietro seemed unable to evade the attack, but in the next second, Pietro caught Kagio's hand, which was right in front of his face. It turned out Pietro had pretended to be unable to dodge in order to closely observe Kagio's hand. The series of confirmations just now made Pietro realize something. This should be what he knew, the toxic leopard lineage known for dissolving everything with their blood. Even Pietro himself was surprised. This family had disappeared from the world a long time ago, their descendants slaughtered. Could it be that only you survived? The toxic leopard lineage, renowned for their ability to dissolve anything with their highly corrosive blood, was wiped out overnight. Those who pursued them to extinction were from an even more famous clan in Japan, the Wandering Ghost Blade, but they left a single child alive, thinking it amusing to leave a lone survivor in these chaotic times. However, this lone survivor displayed amazing talent within the Wandering Ghost Blade, even accidentally injuring his fellow students. He didn't understand why this happened, thinking it was just regular martial arts sparring. His rapid growth caught the clan's attention. This descendant of the toxic leopard, with his acidic blood, kept growing stronger and more uncontrollable. The clan thought of a unique way to harness him, using the lore of flea markets. A flea can jump over a meter high, about 200 times its height, but if placed in a jar with a lid for 3 days, once the lid is opened, they won't jump out anymore. They'll believe that's their limit. So, by curbing his growth and providing him a jar, they could control him. After that, he no longer appeared in the clan's training. He was ostracized and isolated by everyone, not allowed to participate in any martial arts training. Because of his unique blood, no one wanted to be near him, even faced with hostility and physical assaults. As a young boy, he couldn't understand why he couldn't train and grow like everyone else. What had he done wrong? Why was he despised just for being born? A punch in anger knocked down a decades-old tree. Suddenly, a fledgling fell beside him from the tree. Seeing its lonely figure, he related it to his own solitude and decided to climb the tree to return it to its nest. But upon climbing, he realized the fledgling had dissolved in his palm. Seeing this, he became even more inconsolable. It turned out, no one or creature could come near him. From then on, he realized he would always be alone, unable to be close to anyone. Everyone would despise and avoid him. So, since everyone was going to avoid and despise him, he might as well make them fear him even more. Afterwards, the 23rd generation head of the Wandering Ghost Blade, Uesugi Hideaki, realized they couldn't contain his growth. He alone decimated the powerful Sekinoriya family, leaving a scene gruesome like a beast's mauling. It was an incredible ability, also extremely threatening. He was like a beast in the night, born to be a spectral hunter. Unfortunately, the blood running through this descendant's veins did not belong to the Wandering Ghost Blade. However, as long as he doesn't rise above his master, there's no need to worry. And all of this, Kagyo knew very well. Yet, he still chose to be a shadow, the man who protects behind the sword ghost. What the hell are you doing? Serving under the Wandering Ghost Blade lineage that trampled your family? You could have established your own independent sect. Why debase yourself? Kagyo also found it strange. Why did this young man know his secret? Those who could confront the sword ghost face to face in this world are few, and he could not possibly be unaware of such people. So, who are you really? Want to know? Then you must defeat me to find out. Pietro's attack aimed at Kagyo's chin was just right, but such clumsy attacks hardly made an impact. Kagyo could still turn around and counterattack because the attacks lacked sufficient force. If Pietro increased his strength, his own bleeding would become a weapon against him. It seems that without neutralizing his toxin, Pietro couldn't win. What should he do next? Suddenly, Pietro noticed something interesting, and Kagyo followed suit. The corrosive nature of the toxin became stronger, creating a suffocating pressure. At that moment, Kagyo made a suggestion. Just tell me Pietro's whereabouts, and I'll let you go. Do you think no one can fight against you? Seeing the scene before him, Kagyo was completely speechless. Are you joking right now? But Pietro remained calm and composed. A joke? Impossible. I am seriously fighting you, but you can't even imagine that this mop will be the weapon that ends your life. Is he out of his mind? Kagyo thought to himself, knowing well that his invincible claws could instantly pulverize anything wooden. Did you think using a long-distance weapon will give you a significant advantage? Once you've been hit, you'll understand the logic behind it. Kagyo became exceedingly cautious. Although unclear about the mop's potential function, he was certain of one thing. Pietro was always fighting with his brain, like playing chess, planning several moves ahead. Thus, the mop definitely held a secret he wasn't aware of. Sure enough, Pietro began to attack from a distance, swinging the mop so swiftly that Kagyo struggled to approach easily. However, these attacks did not inflict any fatal damage. Therefore, Kagyo decided to abandon defense and charged head-on, since a single touch from him would mean Pietro's death. However, Kagyo's overconfident move played right into Pietro's hands. Pietro swiftly wrapped the mop around Kagyo's short claws, then sharply twisted the mop, aiming to trap his weapon. Nevertheless, this hardly affected Kagyo. Such a thing he could easily unravel with just a flick of his hand. Faced with Kagyo's fierce attack, Pietro remained composed and unbothered, while Kagyo felt thoroughly underestimated. He lifted his short claws and charged violently. However, Kagyo inexplicably fell to the ground, followed by cries of pain. What have you done? Pietro watched the scene unfold as if everything was within his expectations. He knew Kagyo's capabilities were terrifying, not only preventing close contact, but also necessitating constant vigilance to avoid contact with his blood. Once touched, it would mean certain death for him. But Kagyo's blood also had a fatal flaw. Due to its high acidity, once it encountered a strong alkaline cleaning agent, it would react chemically, neutralizing the acid, and Kagyo's much-prided weapon would cease to exist. Enduring the pain in his hands, Kagyo finally understood. So this kid used the mop just now to coat my hands with a strong alkaline detergent. Despite losing the advantage of his blood, Kagyo still believed he could continue the fight. After all, he still possessed that wild reactivity. At that moment, Pietro was shocked by the sight before him, and Kagyo was thus interrupted in his action. Sword Ghost approached the battlefield, dragging her weary body. Pietro thought if she really wanted to save her life, she should have left earlier, but Sword Ghost kept muttering, "I must kill him." Yet, she couldn't even hold a sword. "Madam, are you okay? Didn't I tell you to stay in the boat? What are you doing here? This will only make things worse." "Shut up. I'm going to kill him. I promised you that once this is over, we will leave. Leave this to me. I can find Pietro too. I must do this. I need to be the one who accomplishes this. People must obey their master." "Madam, wait a minute. Please, come to your senses. Open your eyes." Looking back, I've always longed to walk out that huge gate, to leave that place, because once outside, there's no oppressive atmosphere from the clan. But the only reason I can't leave is because of Yuka. Big bro, aren't these flowers pretty? These flowers are really fragrant. Come and smell them. Being with you, the air is warm, and even life is full of meaning. The scent of those flowers suppresses my hatred, loneliness, and sorrow, and even the distinctions of status and nobility seem to disappear. Madam, you shouldn't call me big bro. It's okay, you're bigger than Yuka. Big bro, really, don't call me that. I don't wanna. You're older. Big bro Kagyo. But happiness is always short-lived. Because of the reasons of status, distinctions aren't recognized, leading to me being severely beaten. Even because of the blood running through our veins, we can't touch each other at will. Maybe it's my cursed blood, maybe it's your noble blood, but for sure, this relationship means we can never cross that boundary again. In the days that followed, I could only watch you from afar, because you will eventually inherit the wandering ghost blade, and being your shadow is enough for me. Your birthday was also very grand, with countless valuable gifts, including your favorite perfume, all expensive items, and my cheap, inexpensive perfume. I couldn't even give it to you. Priced at 800 yen, it was far too unworthy for you. The originally cheerful and laughing Yuka changed drastically one day. The friendly Yamadagumi clan unexpectedly attacked the wandering ghost blade, and all I cared about was Yuka's safety, not considering anyone else. I could only take you and flee from that dangerous place. From that day on, you became a different person. You trained day and night, utterly disregarding your physical condition. For revenge, even if you were sick, you continued to enhance your strength, and I could only silently watch, quietly accompanying you. We stayed in a cave for several years, eventually exchanging your life for training results. One day, years later, you successfully avenged the clan with your sword and my blood. After slaughtering 2,000 people, we disappeared. But in exchange for taking revenge, we lost our place to return to. We wandered aimlessly for many years, unable to find a direction in life. You asked me, where should we go? Of course, where the master is. That's where my home is. Even if you asked me to leave, I wouldn't be content. But you seemed tired of this life of hiding and yearned for a place with sunlight, a place where no one could recognize us. And I don't care what that place is, as long as you are there. I just need to be your shadow. That's enough. Kagyo. Yes, madam. How is this possible? How do you have this? You think I didn't know? For the past 10 years, I've always carried it with me. I didn't want to waste it, so I never used it. Now, can you spray it for me? No, this perfume is expired. I can't spray it on you. You really know how to choose a scent. It's truly one I like. The days spent with you are truly joyful, all precious memories. I'm sorry, I couldn't keep our promise. You must take good care from now on. Big bro Kagyo. That is my blood. Spit it out. No, I've done many bad things. This might just be my fate. This way, you'll be able to live better. So please, finish this for me. You can't do this. Yuka. Kagyo held onto Sword Ghost tightly. The sudden shock had already made him lose his reason. He suddenly stood up, slashing his own chest with his hands. Acidic blood flowed out. Faced with Kagyo's beast-like onslaught, Pietro also felt fear and apprehension, because now, Kagyo was not simply fighting. His recklessness, disregarding his own safety, had only one reason. He didn't care at all if he would die. He was unleashing his wild nature without restraint. Kagyo's blood made it impossible for Pietro to approach, and coupled with his enraged state, this made the situation exceptionally tricky. Suddenly, Kagyo was stunned as several fire extinguishers flew around him. Immediately after, Pietro threw several hotel room cards, which swiftly cut open the fire extinguishers canisters. The fire extinguishers exploded right beside Kagyo. Pietro's intention was not to create smoke to block Kagyo's sight, but to make the dry powder from the fire extinguishers cling to Kagyo, thus achieving a hemostatic effect. Kagyo recalled everyone he had fought before, whose last expressions were of lost will to fight. However, the man before him was different, showing no fear at all, as if his talent and blood were meaningless to him. Kagyo, lying on the ground, couldn't comprehend any of this for a long time, like a confused fly facing such a formidable opponent, either related to Pietro or the Glory Club. This young man must be above A rank, even more formidable than a disciple. If someone possessed such strength, he would certainly know of them. So, who exactly is he? But what would knowing change? His life now seemed utterly pointless. Just kill me. Yet Pietro thought him a simpleton. Have you never considered why the Yamadagumi clan would attack the wandering ghost blade? That entire incident, from start to finish, were all Glory's wicked plan. Hearing this, Kagyo's eyes widened. What do you mean? Over 10 years ago, the new boss of Glory began looking for candidates to replace the old 12 disciples. The most notable among them was the wandering ghost blade, which has ruled Japan for 1,000 years. He was attracted to the clan and wanted to take control of it. However, the proud and powerful clan leader wasn't tempted and refused his unreasonable demands. For someone aiming to establish the kingdom of Glory, no one could stop him. Thus, after leaving the wandering ghost blade, he went directly to the Yamadagumi clan leader's residence, using the Yamadagumi clan to annihilate the wandering ghost blade. Do you think the two of you, then just children, could have escaped so easily from that massacre? Afterwards, as he had predicted, you slaughtered all the members of the Yamadagumi clan. With your purpose and life lost, he proposed that you become disciples of Glory. As a result, he took control of the bloodlines of both the wandering ghost blade and toxic leopard clans, and you became the real shadow behind the sword ghost. Although all of this is incredibly cruel, it's the harsh truth. Kagyo could hardly believe any of this. How could he believe Pietro's twisted words? Noticing Kagyo's doubts, Pietro said, "If you don't believe it, why not ask your boss, Raphael? Hearing the name Raphael, Kageo was utterly shocked. Raphael was actually the codename of their boss, the one who gave them the disciple necklaces, though he had never wanted the necklace himself, believing that the world couldn't have two sons, and that he could only serve the sword ghost. Raphael had appointed the sword ghost to that position so Kageo could continue to serve his master. Considering these clues, if all this was indeed orchestrated by boss Raphael, then what the young man said might be true. What kind of life had he and Yuka been living over the years? He just wanted Yuka to be happy. Being by her side was enough for him. But if he had accepted the position of a glory disciple and hadn't always been by Yuka's side, was she still living happily? Was she still at an age like a flower, enjoying the warmth of the sun? Raphael, you really are shameless, so easily ruining someone's life, aren't you? Facing the emotionally charged Kageo, Pietro advised, all this anger will only cause you more pain. It'll just hasten your meeting with the King of Hell. Feeling Pietro's goodwill, Kageo also disclosed, your friends are about to face danger. The pirates we sent to murder the masses are already on board, each armed with sophisticated firearms. This ship will soon be engulfed in flames. You'd better hurry and save them. Meanwhile, the ship was already being devoured by fire. Dako Hyung and Dako Jae were arranging for the masses to leave on lifeboats. However, a sudden sound interrupted their efforts. The people approaching were the carefully selected Somali pirates by the sword ghost. Faced with these well-equipped enemies, the brothers were helpless. Moreover, there was a very important person on board, Chairman Choi Eun-chang. Despite Kageo's warning, Pietro did not seem anxious, knowing that there was a top killer on guard there, the former disciple, Simon. Decades ago, Pietro had asked Simon, what is the most lethal moment for a swordsman? It's when their hands become weak, unable to hold the sword anymore. What would you do if you lost your most skilled right hand? Later that evening, Pietro heard rumors that Simon was absolutely mad. When he stepped into the back room, he was completely shocked by the sight. Simon had actually broken his own right hand to train his swordsmanship with his left to adapt to sudden situations. Pietro rushed to question, why would you need to break your arm to train? If it wasn't truly broken, I could never fully adapt. The body's instinct would naturally make the right hand move, which would never achieve the results I wanted. One day, I will complete the swirling sword with only my left hand. Even Choi Eun-chang was shocked by this scene. Normally, shooting requires a finger to pull the trigger, and a swordsman needs hands to grip the blade, but Simon broke these norms. After that, all the people safely left, and Glory's second stronghold, the Ghost Cruise, completely sank. 3,348, the total number of islands in Korea. Being able to locate Simon's hideout in a remote area speaks volumes of their intelligence capabilities. The incident on the ghost ship will soon reach Raphael, who by then will surely be grinding his teeth in anger. But don't worry, Raphael, just you wait, because the real battle is just beginning. When they return to Jailin's basement, Simon is puzzled by Raphael's situation. The Honor Hospital and the Ghost Cruise. These two strongholds are not as straightforward as they seem. Jailin is distressed because Raphael's real goal is to kill Pietro, a figure symbolic of the disciples, posing a great threat to the Glory Club. Previously, during the era of Divine Cathedral, the 12 disciples were trained by Father Gabriel, not as ruthless killers but as special forces to quell wars. When the world's pain and chaos were calmed and peace was approached, Father ordered the dissolution of the 12 disciples and their return to ordinary life. But Father's foster son, Raphael, was dissatisfied. He found Father Gabriel, believing the company could grow and even go global, and that the 12 disciples should not be disbanded. Father believed that the disciples were Raphael's brothers and sisters, not stepping stones for him to climb to the top. They had sacrificed their beautiful lives for this. They saved millions, all children of the Lord. Now, this peaceful world no longer needs them. Faced with such a response, Raphael clearly could not accept it. He vented his anger at the statue, believing that letting glory grow was truly God's will. Subsequently, he killed Father Gabriel and successfully took over the Glory Club. Upon taking power, Raphael immediately acted, transforming the halo accumulated by the Honor Orphanage and turning it into an organization of killers, the Glory Club. He then selected 12 young people from around the world to replace the aging disciples. Raphael planned to expand the business globally, even aiming for global control. To achieve this, he had to kill the spiritual pillar of the disciples, even the pillar of the entire industry, Pietro. Mentioning Raphael, the rascal, Jailin was gnashing his teeth. But what enraged Jailin more was that Pietro had brought Kageo back to their secret base. In the face of the incessantly chattering Jailin, 2 disciples directly carried him out. Although he wasn't dead, he was seriously injured. Now he needed to rest well. Suddenly, a loud bang resounded in the room. Jailin couldn't understand how he could recover so quickly after losing so much blood. When they opened the door to investigate, Kageo had long disappeared. It didn't make sense for him to get up so quickly after all the tranquilizers administered to stop the bleeding. He must have gone there. It can only be there. Meanwhile, in the vast meeting room of the Glory Club, the ghost ship has sunk. I think Pietro must have done it, but there's no trace of him. He used to show himself. My disciples, what do you think we should do? Could it be that the sword ghost, oh no, should I say Kageo, was defeated? Is Pietro really that powerful? This old man is truly fascinating. It's interesting. A dying man could be so capable. Aren't you scared? Don't just rely on genetics to enhance your body. Try improving your strength first. Shut up if you don't want to be brutally torn apart. You muscle-less muggle. Can people get stronger just by talking now? You too. Would drilling a hole in your heads keep you quiet for a while? Alright, since we've all greeted each other, let's talk. My disciples, you are all top-notch figures in the world, but why can't you catch an old man? Just then, the exhibition hall doors were violently blown off. That's an interesting knock. Keijio, you're still alive. That's great. I've heard the news about Yuka. It's such a pity. But Keijio, tell me quickly about Pietro. However, Keijio did not respond, but glared angrily at Raphael. He questioned whether that incident was really true. Faced with Keijio's inquiry, Raphael was completely clueless about what had happened. Keijio asked about the reason behind the annihilation of the wandering ghost blade. All of this happened because of you. You should take full responsibility. If you had accepted the position of disciple naturally from the beginning, none of this would have happened. Keijio was furious and could no longer suppress his anger. From now on, all the disciples in the hall, one by one, get out. Anyone still here after 10 seconds will have to die. Keijio, do you know what's going on for you to be saying that? It doesn't look like anyone is thinking of leaving. Fine, today, you will all die. Facing the onslaught of the other disciples, Keijio was overwhelmed, especially since he had not yet recovered from the injuries sustained in the battle with Pietro. However, one man with glasses easily intercepted the two, leaving Keijio exhausted from too much blood loss, now unable to face so many disciples at once. Yuka's revenge was still unavenged, and now he could only retreat to regroup and plan further. This guy just greets and leaves? Should we chase him down and kill him? Let him go. At his age, he still has the temper of a child. I believe we will meet him again soon. However, now we can be sure of one thing. Keijio and Pietro had no interaction. So how did Pietro know about the sword ghost matters and all the details of the events? According to speculation, there must be a big shot who helped him, just like someone on the passenger list of the ghost cruise. The name Choi Eun-chang didn't appear, but someone said they saw the boss of Dea Group on the ship. Why did he get on this unrelated ship? He told me he was going on a business trip. Or was he the one who helped Pietro? Forget it. Let's drop him since I just need an armory anyway, and I can replace it. How about it? Can you do it, Disciple Johann? The next day, a video with a high number of views mysteriously appeared online. On the building of Dea Group, 7 English letters appeared, Alipede. Pietro and others were also watching this video. Jaiwan stated that such crazy behavior could only be the work of Glory's S-rank killer, Disciple Johann. He murdered the former Disciple Johann, also known as Alipede. He always leaves his name before each assassination, which adds an extra layer of dread for the victims enjoying their final moments of fear. There was once a prince from a certain country who received his blood-red signature, prompting the immediate protection of the prince by special forces. Meanwhile, the former Disciple Johann also participated in this operation at 59 years old with a record of participating in 359 assassination missions, maintaining a 100% success rate. He assured the prince that the operation would be over quickly. Alipede was right beside him, yet this move did not wound Alipede. Johann discovered that the aura under that military uniform was different from other people. Alipede had killed the original squad members, disguised himself near the prince, and was waiting for the right moment to strike. In the factory, the lights suddenly went out, accompanied by various painful screams. In his urgency, Johann fired a shot and found a night vision goggle with the faint light. For someone well-trained and battle-hardened, this was just a temporary crisis. This was all routine. Then, Johann immediately took off his shoes, because in this pitch-black place, sound was the only source of information. He did this to prevent the enemy from pinpointing his location. However, when he used the night vision goggles, he was utterly shocked. In the pitch-dark factory, suddenly there was complete silence. Even the previously detected scents had vanished. Even with night vision goggles, he could not detect any human presence. Following that, he witnessed a bizarre sight, a short blade inexplicably floating in the air, with some heat emanating from the handle. Normally, if this were an organic life form, thermal imaging would definitely capture it. However, Johann, who had lived for nearly 60 years, had never seen such a phenomenon. Unable to see the approaching person, he felt like an ant on a hot pan, unable to find his way. Even though the person was right beside him, he felt nothing. Simon couldn't comprehend it. He reasoned that if any skin was exposed, it would surely be detected by thermal imaging. How could someone as skilled as Johann be killed so easily? Pietro, however, was deeply apprehensive, as the real fear did not lie in whether the opponent could be captured by night vision goggles. It was that all the prophecies he had laid down had come true. Now, on the building of Dea Group, his name was also left. Although the specific timing was unclear, Alipede would surely follow his prophecy, waiting for the opportunity to assassinate Choi Eun-chang. Immediately after, Simon hurriedly took Jaiwan to contact a hacker to investigate the matter. However, when they operated, Simon was completely dumbfounded. The unseen Jaiwan was unexpectedly proficient at typing on the keyboard. Are you really blind, or just pretending? Jaiwan then explained that he had always worn a special pair of headphones that could read all the information on the screen and transmit it to his ears through sound. Although he was blind, his other senses were exceptionally developed. Just then, Pietro became became serious, because at this point, Raphael would certainly not let things go. Even the former disciples could be in danger, as they would try everything to find them and then eliminate them. Therefore, Simon must act. You need to find them before any of our brothers and sisters get hurt, and remind them to be on alert. Subsequently, Jaiwin and Pietro sent Simon to Seoul Station. Although Simon was still worried about Pietro's safety because of his highly conspicuous identity, they couldn't act together. From there, Simon embarked on the journey to find the old disciples. Meanwhile, Jaiwin and Pietro did not dare to delay, arriving at Choi Yunchang's side. At this moment, Choi Yunchang was sweating profusely, unable to eat or sleep. After Pietro briefly introduced the situation to Jaiwin, a question lingered in Jaiwin's mind. Why did you choose Kim Sung-gu of Glory? Logically, you could find someone more capable. Choi Yunchang explained that although Kim Sung-gu was connected to Glory, his stance was completely opposed to Glory's. And most importantly, Glory's current boss Raphael did not like people with deep connections to Father Gabriel. This conflict was bound to come, and Raphael's goal was to take over the Deha group. Choi Yunchang's health had not recovered, so he had his secretary make arrangements. The secretary, who had heard somewhat of Alapide's feats, knew his assassination skills were considered the best in the world, not only never failing but also famous for his brutal methods. Thus, she arranged for some people willing to cooperate with Kim Sung-gu. They brought in the most famous security team in Europe, Escudo. They claimed to be Europe's toughest shield, where even a mosquito trying to get in would get smacked twice. This was arguably the best team they could find, and leading them was their captain, Costa. Costa was known for his solid tactics, and he also brought a gift for Pietro. Pietro casually accepted it. No need to be so formal. I'm just the chairman's bodyguard. Relax a bit. However, Costa was not optimistic about the young man in front of him. Just don't hold back, Escudo. Meanwhile, in the security control center of Deha Group, Jaiwin and Alexander Miking were also closely monitoring the surveillance. Hundreds of people were patrolling throughout the building. Not even a fly could get in. There were over 100 cameras with no blind spots. However, despite this, the European intelligence officers were still sweating profusely in the air-conditioned room at 16 degrees, the pressure from Alapide making them restless. In contrast, Marco, the captain of Escudo's Team B, was calm and enthusiastic in the control center, claiming, "We are the strongest shield. Escudo is the strongest. No need to panic. No need to worry." Then, he received a notification from his subordinates that it was time to depart, so he left the security control center singing and dancing, with the specifics of what he was going to do still unclear. On the other side, Pietro followed Costa as they methodically checked every corner of the building. Costa told him that the key to security work lies in experience. The reason he climbed to his current position was due to his experience in tens of thousands of operations, a height that young people like Pietro have yet to reach. Pietro agreed, recognizing that experience is indeed crucial. He and the entire team tightly controlled all the insignificant details to ensure the building's security arrangements were extremely well managed. There was no trace of any outsiders entering. Thinking from another perspective, if he were Alapide, where would he enter the building from? Suddenly, the building's alarm sounded, and Costa quickly arranged for personnel to take action. Pietro originally planned to head to the location of the alarm immediately, but the action of Costa checking his watch caught his attention. Although checking the time wasn't problematic, Pietro felt something was off. Soon, security personnel arrived at the location of the alarm, revealing horrified expressions. Someone was dead in the corridor. It was temporarily impossible to identify the victim, as he had been beheaded. Despite the sound of gunfire, there were no gunshot wounds. The victim was inexplicably decapitated. Identification through a work badge confirmed that the deceased was Marco, the head of security Team B. Instantly, the entire building plunged into chaos. Logically, the entire building had been locked down, and not even a fly could enter. So how did Alapide manage the assassination? From another angle, Alapide had publicly declared his intention to kill Choi Yun-chang, making it unlikely for him to break into such a tightly secured building. Moreover, he had left his signature on the building yesterday, clearly aware of the impenetrable security measures inside. Thus, the only explanation was, Alapide had already infiltrated the building. He had disguised himself as one of the building's staff members, meaning, Alapide is among us. At that moment, everyone's phones received the same video. The video showed surveillance footage of the corridor, and running in the video was the head of security Team B, Marco. He was dragged back into the shadows by a pair of hands and slowly disappeared. Shortly after, a figure appeared, holding a round, spherical object. Seeing this scene, Pietro was truly surprised. This person appeared more confident than the other disciples, and his plan was meticulous and flawless. The person slowly raised the object in his hand, and it turned out to be Marco's head. On the face was written a series of English words that read, "Nobody will get out of here alive. Let's see who wins, old man."